Hello, class. We're going to continue with chapter 5, community organizing. Now, here is one community organizing method. First of all, when it comes to community organizing, there's no one preferred method. It all varies with, first of all, the type of community, the urgency of the situation, what resources do they have. So there are different methods that can be applied in trying to organize the community. But it's very, very important because, again, if you're going to develop anything for a community, there has to be a community buy-in. And part of the community buy-in is involved in mobilizing, bringing people together so that each one can hear from each other and share their opinion or their method or whatever they prefer. And collectively, they will make a decision as to what method are they going to use to plan to advance the interests of their respective communities. So there is no single preferred method. A method that be appropriate for Petersburg might not be appropriate for Richmond. And because you have to bring so many things into play. How many people do you have? What is your level of expertise? What is your capacity to be able to handle whatever you intend to handle? What are the resources? And what is the urgency of the situation or the magnitude of the problem? So all of this will lend themselves to different methods. Planning and policy practice. See, first of all, planning and policy practice, community capacity development, and what sort and type of social advocacy. These are all very important. Planning and policy practice. What sort of planning methods do they have? And what are some of the policies that are, because as with every community, there are certain policies. When you plan for this, these are the certain policies are almost like guidelines, things that you need to do to be able to adhere to the best practice. Community capacity, how many people that really know community planning? What are the resources that they have? And what is the urgency of the situation? Because if you don't have the capacity to do it most of the time, it's going to be a challenge. And social advocacy. How well does society, that society or the community really does advocacy? Go after their own interest. Go share their story to those people who have decisions to make as to what you can do and what you cannot do. And also those people that can provide you with the resources that you need to advance your planning and eventually achieve your goal. So there is a level of advocacy that's very, very important. As with any planning, advocacy is key. All incorporates fundamental principles. You always start where the people are. Imagine you might have a problem and let the people tell you what they think about that problem or that concern and what do they want to do about it. and how willing are their participation in making sure that that is put into practice to address the needs of that community. I say because by doing so, you create a buy-in. People are almost tired of people coming planning on their behalf. At times for planning of any program, regardless of how important it is for the community, it's always good to start with the people in that community for which the program that you intend to develop will serve. Start with them. Hear from them. And see how much they are willing to participate in helping bring about the success of the plan that will eventually lead to achieving their goal. Create environment in which people and communities can become empowered as they increase problem-solving abilities. So you empower people so that when people, at times when people say knowledge is power, yeah, if you use the knowledge to address your concerns or your issues, then it's power. You give them that ability to be able to problem solve. And you'll be surprised how much some of these people know and how willing they are to solve their issues. Don't just make the assumption that, oh, they're faced with this problem because they are lazy, they are this, they are that. No, most of the time, it takes somebody to say, you know what? You have it. You know what it takes. You have this under control. Let's just all work together so that collectively we can solve this problem that will benefit the community and beyond. Now, this is a diagram that is also very, very important. Two, you have at the top conscientious building. Because it's very, very important for you to build consensus. Let people come together. Most of the time, when people start with a project, you have opposing views how to solve the problem. But the more you allow people to express their views, you start to see the areas of intersection of interest. You start to see how they are saying different things, but in reality, they mean about the same. They are just going it or about it the wrong way or different ways, not even the wrong way, but different ways. So you build that consensus when people come together. Okay. Then from there, you develop this collaboration wherein people start working together hand in hand. The strategies is a root, you start at the grassroots organizing. Start with families, with small groups. From small groups gets bigger because everybody knows somebody, and bring collectively what started in one room or started in one church building now becomes something that is shared by the entire community. You're organizing coalitions, different groups, church people working with school systems. Then eventually you bring in the police. So from there, you start bringing in maybe people that are retired. It all depends on who are the people that really shows interest in solving that problem. You see, the more coalition you bring in, the stronger it is. If you are just working with one group within a community, then that program or that whatever is developed is not as strong as it should be. You have to bring coalition, different people, bring whites, bring blacks, bring whosoever lives in that community. Try to bring those people together. Because at the end of the day, whatever you are developing, your intent is it should be used by all the people in the community. So if it's going to be used by all the people in the community, try to bring the various facets within the community. The school teachers, school nurse, depending on lawyers, teachers, ministers. You think of who's a celebrity. See, because all of this help. And here you see, you start with the grassroots, organizing coalitions, lay health workers, building community identity, political and legislative actions, cultural relevant practice. All of this help. They provide us for coalition building, and all of this also provide room for advocacy. Then you go down from coalition building, and now you start building community and building capacity building. Power with, now you have power with everybody within the community. Start with coalitions, then you result to community building, capacity building. Because capacity building is now you're dealing with what power, the resources, the players, your team. See, because most of the time is you have a better chance of winning when you have a strong team, a team that is committed to a goal. Most of the time, some coaches will tell you, I have great players, but they play as individuals, and therefore we don't win games. And some coaches will say, I have mediocre, kind of in between, but they play as a team, and we win games. See, most of the time, when the community works together, they are much stronger to address their challenges. But when they work as individuals, regardless of how strong their talents are, it's very, very difficult to win. That's the saying, team together, we win. So community capacity, from there you start selecting leadership, development, because again, as with any organization, first you try to get people that are interested in taking part within within building that community. And once you've seen people that are interested within that group, leadership will arise. You can select from that group people who are going to act as leadership or in leadership role in advancing the needs of the community. And you develop critical awareness. the importance of really being able to accomplish that goal, so that people start seeing the goal, the goal in sight, because all of these kind of things, when you bring people together, you start seeing the various skills that people bring into the table, to the table, and from there, leadership will emerge. And again, the leaders are just leaders that act as facilitators. Other people within the community, everybody has to play a part to make that thing successful. It's not, oh, now we've selected leaders and therefore let them run the show. No, no. You select leaders to act as facilitators, but everybody within the community has a role to play, and everybody should play their role in the best way possible to achieve the goal. That's the bottom line. Anything less than that, you have a problem in your community building. Okay? Empowerment-oriented social action. Challenging power over, you start essentially depending on certain things. You have to, maybe there are certain times wherein you have to challenge some assumptions. You see, because most of the time there are certain people within the society that think that was okay. Now you have to challenge those people that no, the way things are is not okay. Say, for instance, at times when, okay, there has been this gas and railroad or gas building certain things within certain communities. And you have certain people who will say, no, this will not be good for our health. And they make their case to the powers to be. And you always have other opposing members who will have their own different opinion as to why this thing should be built, or this industry, this manufacturing company should be built here. You make your case. You come up with, always try to know the advantages and know the disadvantages. You are advocating for the advantages. Your opposing side will be advocating for the disadvantages. You make sure your advantages are much stronger, much convincing. And when it comes to selling the message, you put people in front that have the wherewith, the language, personality, body language, who are persuasive. You cannot have a very strong idea, then you put somebody who is not passionate about selling an idea, or somebody who might be having problem with the language. Because again, you put your best foot forward. You put your best people forward. Let them sell the message. Let them sell the idea. And you see how you will see what the outcome will be. Recognizing the issue. See, people who start the initial organizers, usually they recognize that a problem exists and decide to do something about it. See, it always have to take some people with that kind of desire. I see a problem and I want to be part of the solution. Because most times people live in communities, they see a problem, they always think the solution is over there, is somebody else. But there are certain times when you live in a community, you are part and parcel of the interests of that community. Don't give your power. That's why you acquire the knowledge that you need to be able to address the issue. You empower yourself with the skills, the knowledge. You see, because it's not everybody that can work in a community. You have to know how to work within the community. You have to be able to have the knowledge base and the skill level. Once you realize that there is a problem and you want to do something about it, get things started. So it can be from within or outside of the community. You go to the grassroots. People within that community, people who know, who are aware of the problem, or who are experiencing the challenges. Go to them. Let it be citizen initiated. Let the citizens say, okay, go to their mayor of the city. Let them tell the mayor of the city their concerns, their issues. And depending on the situation, the mayor will tell the governor. And depending on the situation, depending on how broad or the governor will seek the help of the federal government. It's bottom up. See, bottom up is always, especially when it comes to developing community issues, has a better chance of succeeding than when it's top down or outside inside. Because at the end of the day, most of the time, the bottom up, you have a better understanding of the issue, the impact, and most of the time, you can also see the level of commitment of the people in trying to solve that issue. But when it's top down, watch out. Most of the time, people don't get interested. And even though you think there is an issue and they are aware of the issue, or just because the way it was started or being organized, usually it's difficult for you to get participants. Gaining entry into the community. This is, again, one of the biggest things that you have to, especially in today's environment, going back to some of the issues that we deal with in various ways. We try to create a community of a diverse community wherein there is a sense of cultural sensitivity. The organizers need to know the cultural sensitivity of the people within this the community. You see, because depending on certain religious values or cultural values, most of the time, if you don't have that cultural sensitivity, you will lose part of the community. So you have to know their value system. You have to respect those cultural issues. That's what is called cultural competence. See, you don't just go there and make the assumption that, oh, this is a white culture. Let me just plan everything as I would have planned it for white people. You might fall flat on your face because again, there are cultural differences between white and black, even within white, depending on what group of white you're talking to. So you always have to be very sensitive about the cultural, sensitivity. Develop cultural competence and also cultural humility. Don't make the assumption that, oh, I've gone to college, I've taken some cultural classes, sociology classes, and this. Most of the time, what you learn in the books will give you an idea. But when you come face to face with people experiencing that cultural practice, you might find out that the book was great, but it was not enough. You have to experience it. Organizers need to know who is causing problem, what are the issues, and why, how problems have been addressed in past, who supports and opposes ideas of addressing problems, who could provide more insight. So at times, okay, when you think of some areas wherein you have a lot of cultural divide. So you have some people within the culture, within the community, who do not like the others because they are black, because they are immigrants. So you have to know who is causing the problem and why. Why do they carry those beliefs or those kind of attitudes of hating other people? Because you have to answer that why, so that when the people give you their answer, you can provide it. Whatever you develop is going to provide opportunity for people to know each other more, to treat each other more as people rather than them. Because most of the time, the more people get to know each other, the more they see their common humanity. And in most cases, the more they will respect each other's views and can live together as human beings. Have different cultures, different value system, but at the same time respect each other. And also try to know what had been the barriers. Because most of the time, some people benefit from this conflict. Politicians benefit from creating rift between one group and the other, and some other organizations. So you have to know and bring those people, expose them, or bring them in to help address some of these issues. Because in reality, they are not serving them any. All they're doing is just creating more problem for them so that they, as politicians, can benefit from it. Okay, the gatekeepers. As with any communities, you have the elders, people that others look to whenever there is a problem. They go to those people for assistance. The pastors or religious organizations, the priests, because they are also part of the community. The police, the social workers. These are all relevant groups within the society that can provide relevant assistance. So you go to them for their own contribution, for their own assistance. So you have the executive participant, leadership identification, recruitment, expanding constituencies, you develop task force, and from there, you build coalitions. Very important. Assessing the community. So this is also a very, very important aspect. When building community. You do needs assessment versus mapping community capacity. See, most of the time is with the needs assessment is, okay, you assess where people are at the moment. And where do you want them to be when the community is really fully organized and built? So all you need to do is you build those gaps. What are the gaps that needs to be addressed? So needs assessment is very, very important. Is understand where people are right now. Say, for instance, okay, we want to build a recreational facility, a park. First of all, you see where before the park, there's no place where people can go for recreational activities. So you build that coalition, you bring in all the people that you need to help. And you say, okay, right now, this is what we really need. We don't have a recreational facility where people can go to play games, to walk, to exercise, or to just enjoy nature. So, from nothing to building that facility wherein people can go and do those things. And in most cases, it takes like minds. People who really like those kind of things, they are the easy takers, early takers. Some people, you have to convince them when the recruitment. Some people you don't need to recruit. They are just ready to do it. Some you have to recruit. You have to sell. Don't make the assumption that, oh, if we build a park, everybody will like it. And not necessarily. Some you have to sell. The idea. You look at the community assets. What do we have? Do we have the land? Enough space for us to have various activities within the park? Do we have money to be able to fund the building of some of those facilities? And do we have money for people to making sure that everybody using the facilities use them properly as planned? The upkeep of the facility, the replacement of broken equipment. See, because once that facility is built, it has to be maintained. It has to be used, it has to be maintained. And at times with any usage, depending on the extent or the knowledge of the users, most of the time that can lead to how often do things break. Because if you create a park and within 2-3 months everything is broken, then that's a problem. Or the place is filthy, then that's a problem. So when you are really planning, you plan for everything, A, B, C, D. And there's always something that you can either forget or ignore. Always make room for you to go back and address some of those issues. You have community assets, you have primary building blocks, secondary building blocks, and potential building blocks. These are all the various level of contribution of people, of assets, and those people who will most likely contribute to the program. Determining the priorities and setting goals. The criteria to consider when selecting priorities issue. Certain things you have to, when you are setting your goals, it's the problem. The problem must be winnable. We should be able to achieve this goal. You have to be realistic. Do we have what it takes to be able to accomplish this goal? Must be simple and specific. People should be able to understand the problem and be specific so that it can be addressed. Break it down to the bare bones so that people really understand what are they trying to solve and for who is this going to be beneficial. And how are we going to make it sure that we assess, are the people we intended to benefit from this, are they really benefiting from it? It has to be specific. Cannot just be a broad, because most of the time that's where programs go wrong. It's too broad, it's not focused, and most of the time it leads to different strategies, confusing strategies, and you have a bottleneck and progress ceases. Therefore, it must be simple and specific. Must unite members of organizing groups. Unity. When people work together, a lot can be achieved. Not opposing people or this is their idea. No, the idea belongs to all. Bring everybody in so that when they work together collectively, the goal is attainable. There's not one I or me in that, it's all. We all work together to achieve this common goal. It should affect many people, not just a handful. Should be part of a larger plan. Which I said, okay, I was saying about the recreational park. People go there, exercise and whatnot. What do? It reduces their high blood pressure, a bigger plan. reduces their need to go to the doctor for more medication, or reduces the ability for either the hypertension or whatever they might be suffering from to advance to a much higher stage that eventually can kill them. So whatever you plan, especially with health, it should lead to a bigger picture. Because when people are also healthy, they are much more productive. And when people are much more productive, it contributes to the advancement of that community. So it's a win-win. Goals written to serve as guide for problem solving. See, the goals are not usually fixed, because as you go developing a program, you will find out that there are certain times wherein you have to modify the goals. Either the goal was too easy or the goal was too ambitious. So that's why it should serve as a guide for problem solving. There has to be a level of flexibility within the goal setting. Arriving at a solution and selecting intervention strategies. Alternate solutions exist for every problem. There's always an alternate. One, you do it this way or you do it this other way. Most of the time, you try to take what is best for solving that problem at this time for this community. It doesn't mean it's at the end of the day it's the best. But at times you have to tailor it. You tailor your goal based on the community assets, the people you're dealing with, the environmental structure. Because if you wait for the perfect goal or the perfect solutions or the perfect whatever, you will never get there. You do the best that you can based on the contribution of the community, based on everybody within the community taking part. And from there, you advance. There are probable outcomes. Acceptability to the community. You have to be always very important. The community has to accept it, because they are the ones that will have to live with it. And if they don't accept it, it might likely not be a successful program. Probable long and some long-term effect. And you also have to be mindful of the cost of resources. The final steps. Once you have come to that point, now how are you going to implement it? You have to have timelines. During the first 1 week, this is what we're going to do. Or the first month, this is what we're going to do. Second month, this is what we're going to do. And who is going to implement it? Who is going to be the lead? And how are we going to assess it? See, because again, very important, how much money we need. Everything at the implementation phase has to be there. The money, people with the know-how, people who are willing to participate in the program, people who are going to, for which the program is developed for, How amenable are they to the program? How realistic is the goal? Is this goal measurable? Can we say, yeah, we were able to do X, Y, Z within that week, or within the month, or within the time we said we are going to do it? If not, why not? Because there are certain times these days, because of the weather and other things, or so many other things can come into play. Like right now, I'm sure there are so many programs that could have been implemented last year are on hold because of COVID. And one thing with programs, maybe the program would have cost 10,000. Now, because of the delay and everything, it might cost 20,000. So most of the time, it's always good when you're developing a program, you make sure you stick to the timetable. Unless something happens, because you cannot control nature, but try as best as possible to stick to the timetable. Then you can do the evaluating, do the evaluation. Make sure that everything is okay. If not, why not? What can we do? We try to maintain the progress. So the look back is that point wherein you say, okay, maybe we should have spent more time on certain situations. It may be the goal. We should have spent more time to to really define the goal. We should have spent more time maybe selling the goal to the people. Or we should have spent more time trying to get more resources. See, it's never, once you start developing the program, don't stop. Just continue. And when you're done, you know where things went wrong. You go back, the looping back. You try to correct those things. There are very, very few programs that were right the first go around. Most of the time, you have to go 2-3 steps back. You have to redo it 2 or 3 times or more before you get it right. People change, conditions change, a lot of things that you thought you had under control, were not under your control. So these are all things that you have to bear in mind. Okay, so we'll stop here for today. And we are approaching to the point wherein it won't be long before we have midterms or the first exam. So make sure you start reading some of these things, and I'll let you know when you'll be having some study guide. For now, you take care.